Welcome back inside the car, and the question, does virtual reality give you an advantage when it comes to online racing? Well, to answer that question, we are doing our first ever Assetto Corsa online race with the Quest 3 headset. It's a public server, it's Tatus F4, it couldn't get any more violent or any more unpredictable. We qualified in 7th, I think. No, we're in 8th place, and off we go for a 7-lap F4 Bonanza. This is, as I say, literally a public server. And first things first, I hope you guys... Oh! It didn't help for that. We survived that little knock there. I saw him coming from the left, but he still got us. First things first, after that little punt, I hope you guys like the smoothing. We're using Content Manager to smooth the image of the output of the mirror, which is really nice. Works almost as well as the Oculus mirror. And as you can see, we're getting a much smoother and easier to watch video for you guys than what we can get with Automobilista 2, which is unfortunate because Automobilista 2 is really fun in VR, but recording it in the end output is not so decent. But look how smooth and nice this is. Now here we go. We're in 5th place here. We're holding on. We're doing all right. So the first thing I found with VR is that for me, I do think it makes driving the vehicles more intuitive. And I do think as well, it makes, generally speaking... Oh, hello, what's he going to do? There we go. Generally speaking, it makes it easier to avoid other cars or be more aware of what other vehicles are doing. Obviously, in Assetto Corsa, you can have Heli Corsa on. So you've got a top-down radar view, which you can put on in VR as well. So that really helps if you're on a single monitor. But, you know, that feels a bit like you're abstracted a 2D Tetris blocks car avoidance game. Whereas when you play in VR, you just have a much more natural way of being able to see what's going on and a much more natural way of seeing where the other vehicles are. A crucial component of that is how mirrors work in virtual reality. And you'll notice, unfortunately, I've actually got the 3D mirrors turned off. That's a setting I need to adjust. But when they're working and you have proper 3D mirrors, when you move your head, the view of the mirrors moves as well. But also, just the nature of when you're looking into an apex, you automatically are going to be looking, your eye, you're looking at the track in the distance, but your eyes are automatically also in line with the mirror, which means that if you're looking to the apex, into the braking zone, you're going to automatically be seeing the mirror for where the car is likely to be doing a dive bomb up your inside, which is obviously the most likely way that someone's going to be overtaking you. So, whereas when I play in 2D, stuff like iRacing, I tend to either use, in iRacing I use the virtual mirror, and then I put a really aggressive FOV on it so I can basically just look up at the virtual mirror. Again, it's a bit of a distraction from the actual driving. And in AC on a 2D screen, I use the car radar. I kind of feel in VR, you don't need to do that. It's just a much more natural way of being able to avoid other vehicles. And then because it's 3D, you can really feel how close and how far away you are from other cars in a very sort of intuitive sense. And that also applies to your car position on the road surface as well. It's a lot easier to position the vehicle in a very sensorial and intuitive way, as opposed to a Guitar Hero procedural way that you do in 2D. Like in 2D, you very much have to learn where the car's positioned, where it's placed. You know, it's not as much of a, it feels like you're right. Like, you know what I mean? If you're parking a real car between two other vehicles, you don't really have to think, oh, am I going to hit that vehicle on the left or the right, or am I going to hit that post? It's more a case of, oh, I can feel that my bumper, my bonnet, or the vehicle is not going to hit anything, because I feel that it can fit. Do you know what? It's a different thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can know through practice that it will fit, but you have a feeling of if it will fit. We're getting into innuendo territory here. But I definitely feel, as we move up to third place there, someone made a huge mistake. And second, look at this. First ever race online, we got a bop at the start, and now, through sheer consistency, and probably us putting medium tyres on rather than softs, we're now into second. Yeah, I just feel with VR sims, it's an immediately intuitive, sensorial, as I say, you know, your proprioception, I think is the correct word. You really have a sense of where you are on the track and where other things are, and it's really, really nice, and I think quite important when you're driving and you're trying to avoid people and go as quick as possible. Oh, I love these corners. Mugello here, beautiful track. They've only just added it to iRacing, which is pretty surprising, to be honest, because it's such a fantastic track. Oh no, am I going to win my first ever? Was that the leader losing it? Yes! We might win our first ever multiplayer race in virtual reality at Assetto Corsa. And we're only on lap 4 of 7. People struggle for consistency with online racing. This is why I find it quite funny how a lot of people go on about doing endurance racing and stuff, and it's like, well, look, a lot of sim racers, even in iRacing, only in like the top 3 splits are most of the grid finishing without doing stupid things. So, you know, sprint racing is actually pretty good for a large number of people, and also fun just doing quick race after quick race. I find that's why I used to do that on Live for Speed a lot. But look at this, beautiful. Yeah, Mugello though, beautiful track, absolutely amazing. Really surprised it's only just come to iRacing, given how nice of a track it is. It'd be really interesting actually to compare the iRacing version with this AC version. I think this was I don't think this was in the very, well, it might have been in the first version of AC, because they had a version of this track in Ferrari Virtual Academy that Kunos made before Assetto Corsa, so maybe it's that model. But I'd imagine this mesh is probably getting a little bit dated, a little bit old. But it feels and looks fantastic. You do have to watch out for the AC curbing shenanigans in a lot of vehicles with this. Be very careful on the curbs. But, yeah, phenomenal track. Do I need to do another mention about the pancake lenses? I think I do. You guys watching these VR videos are like, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with him? Honestly, guys, because I've just been banging around in loads of different sims trying things out. I really do think the Quest 3 is a bit of a game changer. The edge-to-edge clarity and the immersion you get from, for me, the Quest 3. Quest 3, guys, it's where it's at. Forget Apple Vision Pro. God knows what Apple were thinking with that. It seems like they've made some really bizarre choices. Forget that. Quest 3, I think. I genuinely think the Quest 3 is actually a better VR and probably a better AR device than the Apple Vision Pro, or whatever you call it. Especially if you take the face visor off and you're playing AR games, you can see out the sides. I really don't know what Apple were thinking. It's very strange. I hope it does well, because I want VR to keep progressing, because bloody hell, VR, especially, well, AR, play 11 table tennis in augmented reality, it's incredible, but VR is so good. So good. That's why I'm pumping out the videos. We've gone back into 2012 VR gamer muscle mode. Oh dear. Sorry about that, guys. But I do think the fact that you can record this smoothly, though, is not too bad. Back when we used to do VR stuff, you couldn't smoothly output things. And you can see that a bit in my AMS2 videos. When I'm talking, things are sort of judgy and it's very hard to watch. But I dare say that with this in AC, and this is the content manager mirroring, as I say, this is actually totally watchable. I think I would be able to watch this without getting motion sick. And wow, what's he doing? Oh, see, that was nice actually. Oh, he's in the mirror as well. That looked cool. I could really tell that he was going slower, and the speed at which he was approaching me there, that was really magnified. In 2D, the relative speeds of vehicles is quite a lot harder to detect, but that was like super jarringly. I felt like it got into reverse into me. Maybe that's the downside. It's a bit too intense. What? Let's not downshift too much there. Whoa. So, I did a cheeky iRacing race in the Skippy at Bathurst. We live streamed that. That was before I did this. I can't believe my first Quest 3 race was in bloody iRacing. But that was superb as well. Like, it felt really... I was not expecting that. It felt really nice, way more intuitive. I mean, it was only the Skippy, so slow, but even that, we survived so much in that iRacing race. And I thought we'd got like 12x of contacts. We did have a car that was driving into us repeatedly, and I thought we'd cut the track as well quite a few times, but after the race we only had 1x. And all that was a result of the fact that VR just magnifies the intensity of the contacts with other vehicles, or your ability to see them, so you move out of the way a bit. So in iRacing, basically, if you get any form of damage or it's an aggressive contact, you'll get like a 4x basically. But if it's a very light little tickle, and it has to be like the lightest of tickles, then you'll get a 0x, so it doesn't count. So yeah, and that's on Bathurst. That was our first race on Bathurst in the Skippy, and it was carnage. And yet we only had 1x. So, you know, the cons though, we can't be completely positive about VR. I do think, obviously, if you do loads of racing, screens are more comfortable, you've got more air to your face, it's not as intense, and the intensity of VR is actually quite a bit, you know, especially for people that get motion sick. But just in general, obviously it's nowhere near as intense as actual real world driving, or even like rental karting or something, but there is... it's just way more intense than screens. Like, it's way more demanding. Your brain is lit up more. For me, that actually helps me focus, and I sort of get into more of a zen-like state in VR quicker than I do on screens. But I can totally see how it's a bit more draining, and I can totally see how, if you, as I say, if you're live streaming, do content, well, screens are just a lot easier. And if obviously if you were like a esporty type person, then probably the bigger concern for esports drivers is that you're going to want to use equipment that's likely to be what you'd find at esports events, which is pretty much always going to be a medium-sized ultra-wide monitor. So in that scenario, you're probably a bit hard done by if you like to use VR. Be interesting to talk to Tortellini actually, because he's probably one of the only die-hard esports VR guys. You know, I mean, sadly for him, he picked ACC as his sim, the worst sim for VR. But you know, credit to him, dedication there, and yeah, the fact is, VR is just it's amazing. But it's not perfect, but bit warm, bit clammy, makes me look more sexy. That's a pro rather than a con. What are the negatives? I mean, setting up AC was actually really easy. Setting up AMS2 was really easy. And iRec, to be honest, it's a lot easier to run now. I mean, I do have a 3080, so I do have a pretty good computer, obviously. But that's with using the Quest 3. It seems to run really nicely. So I think that's changed. But oh yeah, I mean, for me, the VR is just so much easier to actually drive from. But check that out, guys. Blessed be, our first ever Assetto Corsa multiplayer race in VR. We've won it. I'm crying. Can you see? There's water dripping out my headset. Don't cry in your VR headset. That'd be an expensive cry. Getting emotional, but I can't keep the tears in because I've got a VR headset on. Maybe I turn the brightness up and it'll evaporate the tears out of the headset. Genius. But yeah, guys. What do you think of this? Let me know in the comments what you think of this actual recording method and how comfortable this is. If any of you are actually really talented sim racers or do esports, be interested to know what your thoughts are on the sort of competitive advantage or not of VR. But yeah, I look forward to seeing your views and then ignoring them all, because that's what I do. I just ignore everything as that guy teleported away. But until the next one, get the champagne out, celebrate my victory, then throw the champagne away and get yourselves a cup of tea. Take care. Happy sim racing in VR land. And goodbye, guys.